In most public schools today, students spend very little time on their arts education. In fact, many schools have removed art education programs from schools because of budget cuts. This book, Arts with the Brain in Mind, focuses on several ideas that suggest exactly why the general belief that arts are not as important as other core subjects is false. The main theme of the book is that the arts promote the development of valuable human neurobiological systems. Although it is true that many students have gone through school without a general arts education have done just fine, it has been proven that the arts help nourish several brain systems used to learn other core subjects. Similar to other major disciplines, the arts are accessible, brain-based, meaning that the brain is hardwired to make and identify culturally necessary, has the ability to engage each and every person in some way, shape, or form, necessary for survival of the human race, are wide-ranging in depth and substance, and have no risk of harming the overall educational processes of other subject areas. In today's society, students are bombarded with information, but lack meaningful learning. In school, students learn that they better be able to find information quickly, understand how to solve problems, and what makes arguments plausible. But this is not what more modern employers are looking for. They are looking for bright thinkers, people skills, problem solvers, creativity, and teamwork. All of these skills are skills taught through the arts, not general education. There are 130 Waldorf schools located in the United States and over 700 worldwide. In these schools, teachers avoid textbooks, keep on field trips, encourage general reflections, and downplay tests. Despite the fact that students do not learn their basic reading skills until much later, they commonly outperform national averages and have high-ranking athletic teams. The graduates typically get into the best universities, and students often score double to triple the average pass achievement rates for public test scores. These schools are heavily founded in the arts and still perform well. Generally speaking, the human brain is hardwired for music. Within the brain, there are 3 specific areas that process different types of music. Melodic contours processed by specific brain cells, the mammalian auditory contour processes harmonic relationships, and finally the auditory cortex identifies rhythmic and temporal qualities in sounds and music. Not only is the brain built to process music, but it, like many other natural processes, has different developmental periods. The exact age music was introduced and instruction began can affect the exact amount learned and how much will actually be retained by the child. Surprisingly enough, despite popular belief, music introduced to a child in a prenatal setting has absolutely no effects. Anytime after the birth of the child until age 2, he or she is highly susceptible to music. The neurons in the auditory cortex are highly plastic and adaptive. High levels of plasticity may grant a deaf child the ability to develop hearing if cochlear auditory implants are used very early on in the child's development. Between the ages of 2 and 5, music instruction should be initiated in order to receive optimal long-term results. Around 4, the child's left hemisphere has developed enough to process and understand rhythmic games. By the age of 9, children had been introduced to regular music instruction, have gained the basic mental processes of an adult musician, such as perception, rhythm, and tonal skills. By the age of 10, the musical brain is 80% matured, and the immature parts include the frontal lobes and some remaining areas of the corpus callosum. Music has the ability to increase the brain's efficiency and effectiveness. For example, a study performed by Russians has found that listening to an hour of music a day increased the brain's coherence. It is said that music studying can increase overall performance in numerous subjects, and it is believed that music may facilitate a more focused thinking for general intelligence, not just spatial skills as many have previously thought. Music can also be associated with our emotions. For most people, music or a specific song evokes some sort of emotional response. Music actually accelerates and enhances the ability of the listener to make rapid emotional assessments and act accordingly. There are some studies that indicate that music can be used as a therapeutic tool. As stated before, music can enhance both emotional experience as well as academic skills. Some later studies have shown that music can help students enhance their self-concept and general competence. It can be especially helpful for those who are developmentally delayed or experience some sort of exceptionality. It seems to help lower stress levels and aid in the development of their overall social skills. Many older people believe that modern music negatively influences today's children, which is an extremely false assumption. In fact, many students say that they find the music to be more of a reflection on their lives rather than a call to action. Some studies have indicated the purposeful use of music for exercise enhancement. Heavy pumping rhythmic music enhances muscle strength, while calming, relaxing, soothing music actually weakens the muscles. So not only can listening to music make one more intelligent and can make them better at what they do. Music also has the ability to affect different areas of our body. For instance, it can have profound effects on one's stress response systems. Music also has the ability to affect digestive systems, internal secretion, circulation, nutrition, respiration, and the immune system. Music can affect the immune system by lowering the heart rate. It also lowers the amount of stress-causing hormone cortisol and increases antibodies in children. Some studies even suggest that music has the ability to reduce headache pain and back and other postural pains. In fact, high frequencies have the ability to power up the brain, while low frequencies actually discharge mental and physical energy. This idea may be used to help treat hyperactive children in terms of a way of calming them down. First of all, one should keep in mind that many students who may be having difficulties in school can have hearing impairments. Therefore, one should be aware of both students' hearing and listening skills. Also, 15 to 20% of students are highly sensitive to sounds. One should be aware of this and work properly to accommodate the students' sensitivities. Students should be aware of why music is playing in the classroom and how different types of music can be used to calm, energize, or inspire them. Music can be used to help students recall information, so it is of utmost importance to only use it when it can be turned on again during test time. Use music sparingly. It can be overused in the classroom. And finally, one should have complete and total control over what types of music is played whilst in the educational environment. The visual arts are an important part of brain-based education. They have the ability to enhance cognition, emotional expression, perception, cultural awareness, and aesthetics, thus playing a larger significant role in the overall learning process. Art is believed to have been created as early as 1.5 million years ago by Homo erectus. It was believed that the early forms of art were used to enhance thinking and serve as a medium for manipulation. It was also used for parent-child bonding, mutiny building, ritual tradition embellishment, and identity formation and strengthening. In other words, for our ancestors, creating art was just their way of keeping a diary. It was believed that the brain was originally developed for processing moving images in order to identify approaching predators. Later, color vision became evident, and there was a need to identify edible or ripe foods more easily. A human's brain runs on a constant loop, processing, remembering, and storing information. The brain is designed to detect pattern, contrast, and movement. Therefore, the brain is constantly challenged by a series of visual problems. First of all, what your eyes actually see is two-dimensional. The brain must transform the world into 3 dimensions, based on the set of rules children learned early on about the world. Despite the common belief that art is a right-brained act, creating and processing art requires functions from the entire brain. So now that it's understood that visual arts require actions from the entire brain, it should be quite evident visual arts can promote other areas of learning as well. In fact, there are strong links between visual learning improvements in reading and overall creativity. This would in turn include problem solving and critical thinking as well. Now that it has been clarified that art is indeed a concurrent subject and a vital part of a student's curriculum, it should be noted that how the arts are taught is just as important, if not more important, than the exact material being taught. Teachers should provide students with multiple examples and allow students to bring in samples of their work to share with their classmates. Visual arts should be taught with visual tools, with many choices to allow ample amounts of freedom. The students should also be taught how to properly use tools and materials. The class should be ran primarily on students' interests and needs, and should be taught by a teacher who loves art and is passionate about sharing that feeling with others. Kinesthetic art is simply the art of movement. This includes but is not limited to dance, physical education, and of course theater. There can be dramatic, industrial, or recreational. Movement in fact stimulates most of the brain. Therefore, when an athlete achieves excellence in a specific sport, they are more unlikely using 100% of their brain. When compared to seat work, any sort of kinesthetic art uses more overall brain power. This happens because when participating in any sort of physical activity, there are far more environmental constraints to manage than one would encounter during seat work. The dramatic arts, or dramatic play, is one form of hands-on learning. It has the ability to teach students how to express their personal ideas without fear or censorship. Drama allows the individual to gain some sort of competency or even mastery over their own emotions. The ability to truly control one's emotions allows them to downplay or even avoid overwhelming emotions. Industrial arts include sculpting, woodworking, auto repair, metalworking, and building products out of any medium. These hands-on arts help develop the brain and give the individual the feeling that he or she has truly some control over the world. An individual's level of skill with their hands has absolutely nothing to do with their intelligence level, but the mind cannot be educated without some sort of participation from the body. The most effective technique for cultivating intelligence is to attempt to unite, not divorce, the mind and the body. Recreational and arts include all activities such as recess sports and physical education. This form of kinesthetic art allows an individual to improve their mental and physical health, cognition, social skills, perceptual motor skills, creativity, and love of learning. It gives the student a break from a typical classroom-style cognitive tasks. The brain cannot continually organize, codify, and store unlimited amounts of information because it is very easily overloaded. Thus, younger children need even more breaks and possibly even shorter school days for optimal learning success. Due to budget cuts, physical education is often written off as furloughs or an unnecessary part of the student's overall curriculum, but there is good evidence to support otherwise. Many current programs are ailing, but it makes far more sense to fix them and give them reason or meaning and purpose rather than just discard them. When considering assessments of the arts, 3 questions should come to mind. Can we? Should we? And if we should, how? There are 5 sets of stakeholders with 5 different views on how the arts should be implicated. The taxpayers, the students, the educators, business people, and policymakers. Although the primary benefits of the arts are implicit and difficult to assess, it is certain that the arts are justifiable. The problem is that policymakers are driven by money and high test scores. The states want to see the arts assessed to satisfy themselves that they are using taxpayer money well, but what they don't understand is that assessment changes how the students go about learning the material and what the teachers feel compelled to teach. So the arts can be assessed. Some more popular reasons for assessing the arts is that the other disciplines are assessed. Assessment makes the arts seem more legitimate. The arts will receive more funding. It will hold the students accountable for learning the arts, and it will satisfy the anti-arts critics who suggest that the arts are too touchy-feely. Now the question is, should the arts be assessed? Some more advanced modern thinking schools have created a curriculum for the arts. The standards consist of knowledge, content, responses to art, and performance-related questions. Even though these forms of assessments are much more traditional, it is important to remember that the arts are not about right and wrong. They are about life growth and expanding who an individual is and who they can become. The best assessment method for the arts is the pass or fail method. The arts should be implemented across the entire curriculum, and by making the arts pass or fail, it allows continuous feedback between students and the teacher. This allows the student to pursue arts for the sheer joy of it and gives them more responsibility for their own progress. There are certain factors that must be present in order to assume the pass or fail system. First off, good attendance is vital. Then students will be assessed on their overall participation and set up portfolios of work. Finally, the teacher should provide the students with constant feedback about their portfolio and set up ample time for student-teacher conferences. At this time, I would like to mention that all the information found in the previous slides came directly from Eric Jensen's Arts with the Brain in Mind book. And now I'd like to talk about my critical analysis. The book provides the reader with ample information regarding the different forms of arts and how they stack up against other major disciplines. At times throughout the book, it did seem as though the author was rather repetitive with the information he was providing to support his theories and ideas. Although many of his supporting details were clear and the purpose was rather concise, numerous details provided were not backed up, and I was unsure how he came to his conclusions. The book itself was relatively easy to read, and altogether I found it rather enjoyable and extremely informative. At the end of each chapter, the author provides ideas on how the arts can be implemented into a typical education classroom, but there is very little directed toward actual education teachers. The possibility that the chapter on assessment is the only thing directed towards art teachers. The book, in my opinion, was written to persuade those who believe the arts are a waste of time and money in today's educational systems. Although it is a great targeted audience, I feel although many of his readers are people who actually support the arts. Regardless of the fact, I found the book to be highly informative and have gained some ideas about how I'd like to run my future classroom from this text. I can honestly say that I would suggest that other educators in the field of art or has anything to do with higher levels of education, such as a principal or someone on the school board, I think this book would be highly informative for them to read and very interesting.